Hi everyone, my name is Kayeramos. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I'm sharing things that hopefully will inspire you somehow. So today I would like to share something that I have personally struggled before. I'm not saying that I have perfected this or I am already immune to this kind of issue. I still experience it sometimes, but I just learned to better cope up with it. I don't know if it's just me, but when someone tells me great news about them, instead of me really being happy for that person, I experience these negative feelings inside me. When you experience those particular situations, it doesn't mean that you are a mean person or what. The enemy is planting those emotions inside you to make you feel that God loves that person more than He loves you. And we know the truth here. God loves you, whatever kind of person you are. So today, I will be sharing 4 tips on how to better cope up with this comparison game, okay? You probably heard this quotation before by Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "Comparison is the thief of joy," which is really true, right? When we compare ourselves to other people, we experience negativity inside us, and then we end up throwing pity party, being Debbie Downer, sour graping on our situation, thinking that God doesn't love us. So tip number 1, track your growth. You've heard this time and time again, the only person you have to compare yourself with is yourself. Why? Because you know your story, you know your strengths and capabilities, you can control how much effort you put into something, and then you can control how you respond into a particular situation. I personally struggled with this before. As a beginning entrepreneur, it is very tempting to compare yourself with other people, especially when they post those big number of sales. And then someone told me, do not compare yourself with other people. Anyone can make $1 million in sales, but the real question is, are you making any money, right? You can sell 1 million worth of crap at home, but are you really making any money, or you're just disposing those crap, right? So instead of you comparing yourself to other people, look back. Ask yourself, where were you last year? What were the things or the skills that you were dying to learn that time? Did you really make an effort to learn them? Where are you in that particular phase? So for example, in my case, last year I really wanted to start my life as an online entrepreneur. And during that time, it was really complicated, and I really wanted to give up because there are so many things that are very difficult, ridiculously difficult to learn. But then I stuck into it, I kept into it, and I'm happy. I may not be on the position where I want to be right now, but I moved from point A and point B, and that is something that you can celebrate too. Do not underestimate the things that you have accomplished. Another way that I track my growth is through my prayer journal. And during the times when the enemy attacks me of jealousy, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how awesome it feels when I look back at my prayer journal and I would see all the prayers that God answered. Imagine that 6 months ago or a year ago, you've been begging God to bless you this particular thing, and now God actually gave you this thing. Not only that, God gave you more than what you have asked for and blessed you other things. Those are something that you should be grateful. And when you track them, you learn to appreciate all the blessings that you have. Number 2 is shift your mindset from comparison to inspiration. So what do I mean about that? If you really cannot help comparing yourself with a particular person, then humble yourself and approach that person. Instead of being jealous of what he or she has accomplished, ask for advice on how he or she made it. And the awesome thing when you do this, when you approach people, they actually tell you the nitty-gritty part of the process, and then you learn from them. And then whatever you learned from them, you apply it in your particular situation, and you might be able to replicate their success. You know what is awesome about other people? They are actually waiting for someone to approach them. And when someone approaches them, they are more delighted to share what they know. How do I know? I have experienced this a lot of times. People like being asked for advice because there's that nature inside a human being that they would like to feel appreciated. When they are being appreciated, they reciprocate. I really like this quotation from Napoleon Hill. Let me read it. He said, "The main trouble with many of us is that we see men who have arrived and we weigh them in the hour of their triumph without taking the trouble to find out how or why they arrived." So remember, before these successful people succeed, there's a lot of hard work put into it. It's not a magical thing. There's no overnight success. Number 3, okay? This is really very difficult to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway out of love, because if you're watching right now, I would treat you as my sister, as my friend, or my brother, okay? So number 3 is, don't think you are higher or better than anybody else. It hurts, but it's true. There's a story in the Bible that talks about jealousy. It's in Numbers chapter 16. During the Old Testament, God appointed Aaron to be the high priest. There's this group of guys who would like to overthrow them from the position. So they were led by the guy named Korah. So Korah and his followers would like to choose a high priest for themselves. It is out of jealousy. God appointed Aaron to be high priest, but they could not accept that fact. They wanted to steal the priesthood from them. Guess what happened? They were buried alive. So the earth opened and they were swallowed in. The lesson is that God has a blessing for each person, and when we compare ourselves to other people, we are actually questioning God's authority. Remember what happened to Korah? The same is true in our lives. When we question God, God, why is this person has that particular blessing and I don't have? We are questioning God's authority. I like this verse from Philippians 2:3. Under the New Living Translation, it says, "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves." Meaning, don't think of yourself that you are on top of everyone or that you are better than anybody. You can always learn something from everyone. Number 4, take a break from the root cause of comparison. Now, you have to identify what is causing you to compare. Is it social media? Is it always lurking on your Facebook, Instagram feed? I have nothing against social media. I love social media because that's how I connect with my family and friends. But sometimes staying too much on social media can be overwhelming because we get to see these happy moments, great moments, and we tend to believe that everyone that we see, all of them are happy and we're miserable. Well, I'll tell you, that's just part of the story. That's just a piece of the puzzle, because a lot of times we don't know what happened behind the scenes, right? So I have an obsession lately on Instagram pages that do photo manipulation. So I follow some accounts because I think they are awesome. When you look at the pictures, you begin thinking or wondering, how in the world did this person do it? So they use a Photoshop and then they set up several things in order to get that perfect shot. If you would like to be on that level of genius, you begin to think, how come I'm not as creative as that person? I wish I am. That's how I think. But then when you look at their stories, you see the behind the scenes of how they took the shot, of how long they set up everything. And then you'll be like, wow, that's a lot of hard work. Once you learn the full story of the entire picture, you get to appreciate the result more. And then you get to actually applaud the person. And I like to apply that in real life. Because once you see the story behind every victory, every reward or accomplishment of a certain person, you can't help but be happy for that person. So again, we only see a piece of the puzzle, a part of the story, a page in the chapter of the book. But once we know the real story behind it, we understand why that person deserves that. And because of that, we cannot help but be happy for that person. We set aside our selfishness, and then instead of us comparing ourselves to them, we end up cheering for them, we end up rooting for them, and we finally can tell that we are genuinely happy for you. So those are my tips. I'm sorry if my camera is a little bit dark because it's about to be night. By the way, it's just 5 p.m. here in my place, but we have long nighttime here because it's winter. I'll see you again next time. By the way, if you learned something here, please like it. And then you can also comment the topic that you would like me to talk about next time. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. So see you again next time. Bye-bye.